welcome to Small Biolec. My name is Ankit. Today I am going to talk about a new thing, that is codon sensing in bacteria. So I'll be talking about two things, codon sensing as well as codon quenching. So without any delay, let's get into this video. But if you like my content and if you like my explanation, then after this video please subscribe to my channel. Okay, it gives me a huge lot of motivation to make and continue making more of this kind of videos. And also, if you have any kind of suggestions, please give it to me. I will make a video about it and I will try my level best to explain it to you. So let's start. Codon sensing is the phenomenon by which bacteria communicate among them, or they relay information. And these informations can be anything, starting from the population density to nutrients availability, even virulence in different cases. And also in some cases it also helps in chemotactic movements. Now, what kind of signals do they release? Or what kind of messages do they relay? Is it a message on WhatsApp or Facebook, or they just call each other? No, it's not like that. Basically, they release chemical signals with the help of a group of compound known as lactones. And one such example is acyl homoserine lactones, or group of compounds known as the acyl homoserine lactones, shortly called as AHLs. And there are also a group of bacteria that can communicate among themselves and within the same group as well using these AHLs, and sometimes they also use something known as the autoinducers. So while doing this video you will hear these terms a lot. AHLs means the acyl homoserine lactones, and also you will find AIs, and AIs are simply autoinducers. Both of them have got similar function. Okay, so now let's zoom into the genetics of this kind of codon sensing. So to understand that how this codon sensing actually happens inside the cell. So what happens is that suppose we have this bacterial cell over here. It's a very rough diagram of bacterial cell I'm trying to draw. Over here we have something known as the lux I. And this lux I is an AHL synthase. So as you know, if anything is marked as synthase, it is helping in synthesizing that compound, in this case the AHL. So this lux I synthesizes something known as the AHL, acyl homoserine lactones. These AHLs actually diffuse out of the cell membrane, okay, and it gets exerted out of the cell, that is, it goes out of the cell and it accumulates outside into the environment. Okay. So these autoinducers or AHL specifically requires the induction of S-adenosyl methionine while their production. So S-adenosyl methionine plays a very much big role in this. Now, once these are there outside, okay, once these AHLs are actually outside, then what happens? It shows if there is a high cell density, then that means more AIs and more AHLs are outside, and they will bind to. There are cytoplasmic receptors, so they will bind to these cytoplasmic receptors. For example, this is a receptor, and suppose these AHLs look like this. Suppose. So they are out, so they will bind to this receptor. Okay, so these receptors are made only for the binding of specific kind of AHLs. A particular bacteria can bind to only a specific type of AHL and not every type of AHL. Now once it is getting binded with this thing, actually what happens is that these receptors have something known as the transcription factors, or the TFs, and these transcription factors help in transcription, nothing else. So basically gene transcription I am talking about. So the receptor binded with the AHL, the receptor and the AHL complex, you can say, it basically gets inside the cell and it helps in transcription by activating the transcription factors. Or basically what happens is that this kind of receptors also, these kind of receptors that I have drawn over here, these receptors have got two domains. One of the domain is known as the binding of the AHL domain. So via this side it binds to the AHL. And also we have got another domain. This domain is usually inside the cell, but once the AHL binds to it, inside this domain, if you zoom this domain, so if this is the domain I have zoomed, this domain contains an inner layer. This inner layer of the domain is not exposed, it's inside, but it is basically the DNA binding domain. So this is basically a DNA binding domain. Or what happens is that this particular thing binds to the DNA, okay, and after it binds to DNA, what it helps in the expression of the particular regulon. So these all are kind of operons, okay. So when the AHL binds to the receptors, it helps in expressing that operon, and that operon being expressed, it helps in different kind of factors like virulence, for example, biofilm formation, and many others. So this DNA binding domain is usually not exposed, but once the AHL binds to this receptor, this DNA binding domain comes outside somehow because of protein dynamics. So this DNA binding domain is outside such that it can now bind to the DNA, okay. This is what happens in case of the bacteria, but this thing basically is found in gram negative bacteria. So gram negative bacteria usually show this kind of mechanisms. So there is a different mechanism for gram positive bacteria as well, but that mechanism is not that much complicated. The only difference being the receptor over here, it contains receptor kinases, and that receptor kinase, with the help of ATP, it actually phosphorylates a specific group of protein, and that protein, instead of the whole receptor being pulled inside as a transcription factor, this receptor phosphorylates another protein, because this receptor is basically a kinase type receptor. So let me draw that, okay, that would be better. This is just a less complicated diagram of the gram positive system. Now what happens is that there is Lux-I, the same thing over here, it goes on, but once it binds to the receptor over here, there is a particular domain which is basically a kinase domain over here that phosphorylates a particular protein inside the cell, and that protein, this part over P here it is written, it denotes phosphorylated protein. So this phosphorylated protein means it's an active protein, and this active protein is going to help activate different transcription factors, and that transcription factors in response will activate particular set of operons, and these operons will help in different kind of activities like the virulence factor formation, biofilm formation, even in different kind of chemotactic movements. This is what I am trying to say. Now these kind of systems are first found in bioluminescent bacteria, for example Vibrio fischeri. So same thing goes for bioluminescent bacteria like the Vibrio fischeri or Harvey, and this bacterium produces light by means of the enzyme, okay. There is a particular enzyme which is responsible for creating light in them. The enzyme's name is luciferase, and what happens is that in presence of oxygen, okay, so this luciferase is expressed in high quantities. So this luciferase will be expressed in higher quantities, or upregulated expression will be there whenever there is more and more autoinducer signaling, and this autoinducer signaling will only happen when there is a high cell density, or HCD I can just say in short. So the luciferase enzyme, basically in the presence of oxygen, it catalyzes the oxidation of a molecule, and that molecule's name is luciferin. So in presence of oxygen, it basically catalyzes the oxidation of luciferin. In other bacteriums, the reaction involves the oxidation of an aliphatic aldehyde, which is actually reduced, okay. Means that aliphatic aldehyde is basically reduced by flavin mononucleotide. So I think it's getting complicated, so I'll just move into showing it with the help of board work diagrams. So we have got flavin mononucleotide dihydrate, okay. This FMNH2 plus, in presence of oxygen I have said, plus RCHO is basically an aliphatic aldehyde, will give you flavin mononucleotide. So hydrogen is removed, plus you will get RCOH, basically from aldehyde to carboxylic acid. Along with that you will get water, and along with that we will get light. Basically the light is in the range of 495 nanometer, okay. Now, so after this, one of my viewer has asked me to explain the codon quenching. So like codon sensing is like the bacterial talking, codon quenching is like bacteria blocking you on WhatsApp, nothing else. Or not the bacteria actually, it produces signals which helps you in clocking. So how it happens? Let's start. So about codon quenching, I don't have much to explain with the help of diagram, but you have to listen to me very properly. Okay. So there are a number of ways of codon quenching. First, in case of laboratory uses, signal dilution is one. It means the signaling small peptides are washed away physically, and this is often used in lab setups. But another is there, which is inhibition of Lux-I or the AHL synthase. This can be achieved by bacterium if it is actually diminishing the rate of producing the Lux-I altogether. But the third part of is basically enzyme based inactivation of the AHL. So what happens in this case is that there are different enzymes, like we have the AHL lactonases, we also have the AHL acylases, and also apart from that we also have some enzymes known as paraxonases. Okay, so these enzymes also help in regulating or actually quenching the signal. Now what do you mean by quenching? Quenching means nothing but to diminish the signal, or in other word I can say that it basically means to to switch off the signaling pathway. Okay, in this case. So AHL lactonase based inhibition of the AHL molecule. So these enzymes degrade the acyl homoserine lactonases, okay, to end the communication. So these enzymes are nothing but this enzyme AHL lactonases, they are zinc based enzyme. There is a two zinc ions that are helping in the proper functioning of this enzyme, and also they have been found to have an alpha beta / beta alpha sandwich fold protein structure. Basically they are found to have alpha beta beta alpha sandwich domain, and these are basically these lactonases act as if they are basically part of the beta lactamase family, but it is a metallo beta lactamase family. Metallo because we have got zinc metal over here. Okay, now apart from this we also have got AHL acylases. Now AHL acylases they are two degrade the same thing, okay, but the difference is that they degrade the particular amide bond. They degrade the particular amide bond in the signaling, and the AHL lactonases, from the name you can find out that it basically cleaves the lactonase, the lactone ring of the compound. And lastly we have got paraxonase. So paraxonase or paraxonase, whatever you can call, is found in mammals, okay, including humans. So it's basically a different enzyme which has a calcium ion based catalytic mechanism, and these enzymes, they are also in short form they are named as PONs. There are different classes of PONs like PON 1, 2 and 3. So there are different classes of PONs. So what happens is that they show specificity to a wide range of substrate having different enzymatic activities as a whole. For example, they have got organophosphatase activity, arylsterase activity, and also even lactonase activity. So these PONs are also helping in the cleavage of the things like the acyl homoserine lactones. Now there is an interesting thing I will be talking about. So recently I was talking about the TCA cycle. As you know, tomorrow actually means I don't know the date, I complete the TCA cycle. Okay, so now how TCA cycle is also linked to this, okay, it's very interesting to know. Basically this TCA cycle produces acetyl CoA. Acetyl CoA is released in different steps. That acetyl CoA enzymatically is converted to enoyl ACP. I am not going into details of the enzyme, but if you want you can ask me and I will explain it to you. So that TCA cycle acetyl CoA is converted to enoyl ACP, and that enoyl ACP is actually converted to acyl ACP. And over here methionine plus ATP will give you SAM, S-adenosyl methionine. I have already said about this when I was talking previously in this video only. So that produces something known as the AHL, acyl homoserine lactone, and this thing is active and this will actually help in communication. But now we know we have discussed about 3 enzymes for codon quenching. So this part is basically of the codon quenching, and this was in our sensing. So here what happens is that in this case the codam quenching, the first enzyme we need is AHL lactonase. So this AHL lactonase and the PONS, or the PON1 actually, not PONS in this case, PON1 will be there. In this case PON1, it basically works like a lactonase only and produce something known as the acyl homoserine. Acyl homoserine, not lactone, because this lactone ring is cleaved over here. Over here the lactone ring was this part, but over here it is basically cleaved. Now, so this acyl homoserine, not lactone, acyl homoserine is inactive and thus cannot communicate, and hence the bacteria is devoid of communication and we cannot transmit any information to others. In case of AHL acylase, AHL acylase is used by those bacteria which are actually using the codam sensing compounds of other bacteria to be utilized as a food source. Why? Because in this case of the AHL acylase, what happens is that the homoserine lactone part is there, but like I have told, the amide bond is cut off. This bond over here is basically cut off. This bond, okay. So as this bond is cut off, you will get one homoserine lactone part, that is this one, and also will get this part. Now what is this part? This part is basically nothing but fatty acid. So this is so interesting that codam sensing compounds of one bacteria can be utilized by other bacteria for food purposes, okay. And also in the process they are also quenching the signaling pathway of that bacteria who is producing the original acyl homoserine lactone. So by saying this, I would like to conclude my video that today I have dealt with codam sensing and codam quenching, how these things work, and also I have told you that how these kind of things are regulated, and also I have shown you the gene expression, like how the genes are expressed and how the transcription factors are activated for this thing. So if you want to know more about, then you can please comment down below, and if you want to know specifically in more details about something, you can always rely on me. So if you like this video, then please like, share, comment and do subscribe to my channel. Your subscription gives me a lot of motivation. Please subscribe and watch this video till the end. Please watch this video till the end, because it helps me a lot to reach a lot of people, and I want people like you to be benefited from my free lectures. Okay, Mall Biolect is out. Please stay at home, stay safe, and also do not go out. Whatever others are saying, don't follow. Do not go out. Government is trying to make you actually help you for your own benefit, okay. So don't go out and don't believe whatever you find on internet, but please stay at home and also study properly. Subscribe to my channel, it will help you in your later future, okay, for studying actually, nothing else. So please subscribe and bye.